Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. I'm Rev Briz over here.
I'm Rev Z right here.
And this is a whole bunch of ministers talking shit, including a couple of doctors. If you're with us and you know our program, you know we normally broadcast live on Friday mornings here on the New Thought Media Network. Well, this week we're at the Centers for Spiritual Living Convention in sunny Southern California, and there's a whole collection of great people. Rev Z and I thought, what the heck, let's do an extended version, no holds barred, ministers talking whatever. We've got a couple doctors in the room that are here to kind of keep the ministers in line. They're blocking my shot. Stay out of my shot. We got a couple of new doctors.
So if we go into cardiac arrest, they can save us.
That's right. You can save us by calling 911. On my left, we have the Reverend Dr. Harry Morgan Moses, newly minted Dr. Jamie Lula here on my left. On my right, dear friend and longtime colleague, Reverend Jay Lang. I think you all know Rev Z.
Yes, and Reverend Dr. David Alexander.
Dr. Tracy Brown.
Reverend Doctor. So we're set. If anything goes wrong, we got every base covered. All doctors are present and accounted for. Let's start talking some stuff.
Let's start talking some stuff. All right. First question is, and we're going to let people self-select this based on seniority in the ministry, time in the ministry. And that, for those doctors that aren't ministers, that can just be like whatever. But the question is, what one thing has moved you to go, yeah, over the last few days? Whoa, I get named the oldest. You saw that?
In case I was any question. Dr. Chris from Fort Lauderdale.
Right?
He and I came into I think we both got licensed in 1990. And so I haven't heard, I've seen Chris move around. I know he had to work in Kansas City that was quite good for a good long time. I know he's networked with a lot of people, but I hadn't heard it for a while. And I really liked how he just said that we do not, our friend Michael Beckwith used to say all the time, he said, people thought this was the name and claim of religion. Let me go learn about spirituality so I can get my toys. Okay? And I love the call to it's not about toys. It's about making a difference. Mm-hmm. It's about, I love the Tibetan Buddhist line, we came from the light, we put on a coat of skin, so we return to the light. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, in that parentheses, what Joel Goldsmith used to call the parentheses in eternity, right. Hopefully in that parentheses, we added to the whole.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I love the call to that clarity of that. And I thought that was really neat. And then this guy, I don't know what happened to him, but something got a hold of him, and he's been singing us through the roof, just through the roof, and in a way that's really been opening people up. It's been marvelous. Yeah. It's been marvelous. So
thank you.
That's been, and that's the other big hit. Yeah. Is to hang around with people you love and listen to music, but music that is filled with these all-inclusive principles.
Yeah.
It's just been wonderful. And to see the room respond, right? You ask everybody to respond, and they all want to sing it. Boy, everybody's been singing in the shower for a while.
I'm going to make a real quick request of our producer to take down the branding in our upper right-hand corner. We normally keep that up there, folks. We got such a packed room that we don't have a wide enough camera angle, and we don't want that logo being over top of Dr. Harry's head the whole time.
Oh, good. That's all you mean this whole time? They haven't seen my face?
Well, that's the best part. I've seen you like this. All right, so I know we decided that Dr. David's next oldest, or next in your.
Well, how about that?
That's full circle. That's what I'm saying.
Like Dr. Peter said this morning, I remember when the youngest.
Let me go get my walker. I'll be right back.
Dr. Aaron and I started some good work together about almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Back now.
So yeah, most inspiring wow moment. I mean, just everything. But Dr. Edwards' message and everything that followed. I got to be backstage with Rev Rafe and Gabrielle embracing each other, and the mutual moving that was moving in their spirit and inspiration. And then I got to be back there to witness that, and then honoring of the trans teens this morning, and just I think for the last 2 years I have wondered, even though I've been involved in leadership, I have wondered, and I'm sure others have too, am I out here on the skinny branches? I'm clear about what I'm doing in this movement and what my voice is, but I sometimes wonder, am I out here on the skinny branches? If I turn around, is there anybody else there besides people in my community? And I've heard this from several people, the energy and the affirmation of the direction and the emphasis that has been threaded throughout everything has been restorative to people's faith in this movement. And I guess it's about the synergy. And we'll always have a tent that will, have people at different places in terms of their readiness and their enthusiasm about something, but there's still a synergy about what's calling us. And you can't deny that. You can argue with it, right? You can resist it, but you can't deny that it's calling. Right. And it's definitely calling us as a movement. And so feeling that collectively has been restorative to my soul.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well said. Nice.
Well, that's some good shit.
Exactly.
I don't know the history. I'm from Dallas.
Well, let's go with Jamie. He's been around a long time.
Yeah. Everything has been so moving to me. I was moved by those young ministers working together and how clever they put that together. And it was funny when we see the back of his head, and then I see like the football and the little thing that he was, and it's true. Yeah. And as a movement, it's like, how do we find a way? Because it's like we have to pass this on to the next generation. And it's like, I'm not the next generation anymore. It's like there's a couple new generations behind me. And how do we keep this teaching moving forward? Because it's and they really spelled a lot of stuff out. It's like, not doing the spiritual bypass and everything. And I thought that was really beautiful. I love Petra. I loved Edwards' talk. I loved Gabrielle last night. The music for the week, because Amy got sick and she had to drop out, and then they passed it on to Gary, and then he got sick, so they passed it on to me, and it's like, oh shit, that's okay, because it's like I've done it before, but I had 10 months to prepare, and this was like sink or swim, and everybody has just come together, and it's just the synchronicity of the musicians playing together, and the message is like Petra said today. It's like I was going to call you and say I wanted something to call me, and it just happened. And the way that song came through me initially, out of a prayer with my wife when we were prayer partners before we were actually dating, and the metamorphosis
for you out there.
Practitioners online right now. But the metamorphosis of that song, where I sang it from today, and where I wrote it from, that journey and that path. I mean, Dave has been such a huge part of that path. Jay has been such a huge part. We used to do walks of intentions at the camp. 5:45 every morning. It's like you were out there, and if you weren't there at 5:45, we were gone. Powerful, but I mean, that's my wife and I have been taking walks of intentions now for 20 years, and it's so powerful. So there's so much synchronicity that's going on here, and And like when Peatrice, I said, acknowledge Petra today, and she said, yeah, it's like, it was like perfect. And I said, yeah, I wonder how that happened. Something ended up right there in that spot. So, I asked Carl Anderson one day, did you know Carl? I asked Carl Anderson one day, I said, I know that when you sing, you know God, and you know your oneness with God. What do you do when you're not singing? And he said, I sing some more. There you go. And it's like a prayer song is twice prayed, and it's like that whole philosophy is like, I gotta keep singing. I gotta keep singing. And I think everybody has been so hungry, like you said, the shower singing, but everybody's been so hungry to sing in community. Because it's not about us and them, it's about us as a community singing out and allowing that prayer to well up within us and allowing on a molecular level for us to make the shift for these next generations to pass the teaching along so it will be strong and it will last, 1,000 years, so.
Your music program has been so amazing. Jennifer Burnett and I were up in the front, we're laughing at ending the session day, and you said, so I introduced you to Karen Drucker, and she goes, what? She didn't know what's going on. You just, okay, all right, we're doing this. You guys just flow so easily for service. So.
Yeah.
And it speaks to your doctorate, to be able to step in at the last minute, trying to figure out, I'm going to have 10 months, and I got this whenever you got it.
Right.
So that's brilliant. That's just brilliant. And that speaks, in terms of me, that speaks to the evolution of spirit in our lives. Not that the spirit is evolving, but it's evolving in our lives so that we are able to step into any moment and open our heart and open the spirit and just let it flow.
Right.
Yes.
Yay. Right.
Yes.
We're going to hear from the good doctor over
Come on, Doc.
We're done with this.
We're already a ministry has gone by us.
Yeah, we're done. Just make sure his voice is getting there.
If I had to choose one thing, it would be one person, and that would be our team leader, Charlie. To see Charlie do the report from the team leadership about the finances and what they've been doing and how they're doing it was so inspiring for me to see, and also because I was first introduced to Charlie maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So to see that growth and now to see a 17-year-old or 16, 17, maybe almost 18-year-old, and to see the professionalism and the comfort, and it just gave me confidence. That was 2 days ago maybe. And then this morning to see that power talk and to be taught by this teenager about the law of attraction, to be taught by this teenager, really, like, I want to show that video to anybody who's in ministerial school taking a class on speaking and homiletics.
Right.
Because you told that story, left the pause, left you hanging to tell more of the story, and then went back and pulled it all together. And it was spiritual point after spiritual point after spiritual point. I'm not sitting there going, oh, okay.
And you remember that wide-eyed openness, right?
Right.
And how much that brings to us when we look with fresh eyes on it.
Yeah, so I think, if I were to choose one thing and not repeat what everybody else said, it's the whole thing. That I was spiritually fed, and I was inspired, and that's going to be my role model for my next talk.
Right on. Cool. And you'll probably be able to catch that talk on the New Thought Media Network. Just saying.
Well, I think that the opening with Dr. Edward was tremendous. And I don't think anyone could have delivered that message in the same way. And I think that it shows that he's been listening to the field. And he's been listening very deeply to himself and the things that have come up for him over the years. And, I think we got everything that we needed to go into the next phase of our development in terms of service. Because we have been, I think to a great degree, we've been focused internally, into the, developing ourselves and self-actualization. And that is absolutely necessary. And I come from a community organizing background, and I almost went crazy in that because I didn't have the self-reflection. And I had to step away in order to get the self-reflection. But we can do it all, if we can integrate it. So I too was really moved by Charlie because I thought, look at what happens when someone gets support and training and they get love. And how far can you go? I mean, there's no limit, right? And it can all be integrated before you get gray hair.
And also, you got it just from that story, and I don't know Charlie, but just from the story, kudos to the stepmom. Whoever he kept saying, my stepmom said this, my stepmom, whoever stepmom stepped up. That's for sure. Yeah.
And didn't try and solve it all at once. Let there be some space between to let that evolve. Yeah.
Jimmy, what's your?
Dr. Edward was great, and I think combined that with Gabrielle Claiborne's talk last night was both the courage to let go of the fear, and the fear is just it's in the head, and our fears and anxieties in our head, and really when we come to the heart, we know what the truth is that's coming through us, and we just speak from that truth. We don't have to question it or doubt it, or wondering what people are going to think about it, what my community's going to think about it, what the world's going to think about it. And just speak from that truth.
Yeah, that's freeing.
It is. It is. And then also just conversations in the hallway and dinner and just permission to
Catching you half naked in the pool?
No, it's he did walk up to me today and said, "Oh, it's so good to see you with clothes on." I'm going, "Please explain to me." They saw me, I was in the pool.
Pinky fool, you
with the wall. But just permission not to try and put our ministries, our services back in the box.
Yeah.
Right? The box has been opened and there's no reason to try and put that box back up there.
Yes, right.
There will be people that still want traditional services, and most people are looking for something really different. And we can provide all of those things. And I, meaning the little me, doesn't have to do it all. That's crazy to think about, Involve people, partnership with people, empower people, trust spirit, working through them. Let it happen.
Yeah, so that's powerful.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to add is, Jimmy, you've inspired me. I'm going to develop a new app that's a choose your practitioner, and you can swipe right or swipe left.
That's pretty ingenious. That sounds like a good idea.
So also,
Dude, is this an investor meeting?
The only people who've been through the hell called online dating really did that.
Gracefully, no idea, yeah.
What about you, Z?
For those who know me, I'm an energy vibration kind of guy, and there's nothing better than vibration from music and nature. And so to be in a space where the energy is definitely free flowing, and given when Jamie had to step in, that there's no time to think. There's only time to feel into the music. I think everybody felt that. Everybody resonated with it. And I must say, I was holding back tears. I didn't want nobody to see me cry. I was being manic. I shook it and embraced my feminine and cried, and no pun intended in any of that bad way. But the ability to be spontaneous and allow the moment, as they say, to be pregnant.
Yeah.
And not to try to do anything special with it, just allow it to reveal itself and unfold itself in that moment, which is what the conference is, right? The moment of now. I mean, right, you know, if I took everything, the thing that stood out the most is that we are now able to have a free-flowing spirit in the community with self-reflection that is moved by sound and allows me to swipe right or swipe left. I can participate where I want to and not feel ashamed about it, not have to prove it or explain it to anybody, just be right now and spirit will make the rest of it happen.
Right. And even when a question is coming forth, it doesn't have to be answered.
Exactly.
Stay in that question is a good place to be.
You say question, and that's important for me on this one. Throughout, from Edward's talk and all the other pieces, Gabriella, we have answered questions. And over the last 2 years, there have been a lot of amplification to questions about our leadership and our movement and our philosophy and the law of attraction. And some of those voices may appear to be louder than they really are, but if there's one person asking those questions, then there's more. And those others are silent about those questions. And I often come away from these conferences reinvigorated in my love of this organization. That wanes between the events. Sometimes it's not there when I get here, but it's usually there when I leave. And this time it was immediate. We're answering the questions that you've been asking, and here's how we're going to address those questions. Questions of racial justice and all the inequities that are going on in our lives. I've been doubly inspired, not just by the individual speakers, but by the collective experience we've created.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, many people have come up to me and they've said the same thing. And they said, you know, I came here and I kind of had one foot out the door.
Yeah.
They're on the fence. They're you know, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but my sense of it is, and I was in a similar place again. Am I out here all alone on the skinny branches? A little bit crestfallen or heartbroken at some of the dialogue and conversation that's unfolded online amongst you know, people in our movement and also people looking at our movement and us responding to just all of that.
Yes.
And for a lot of people, it's like, you know, ball falling out of bounds and they got both feet in. Both feet in, that's a touchdown. So, to bring a sports metaphor in.
Yes. The football in your thought. It's a race thing, that football is everywhere. That's every time of year. At least in this country. Baseball metaphor. Yeah, you know, not season.
With the Super Bowl coming up, you got to exactly.
They're going to play the Super Bowl.
So one of the things which is kind of similar, as I was listening and people were referring to like Edward Zillion's talk or Peter's comment or Gabrielle, and it's like for people who are not here, I was thinking, well, what's the common thread? Because, you know, it's like it was Edward's talk. Well, what was it talk about?
Right.
And it does seem that common thread that you kind of refer to now, this common thread of we as a movement must step into life in a different way. And we must initiate the kinds of changes that need to happen if we're really going to move toward our vision. And this has been a conference where it hasn't been hinted at. Inclusion hasn't been hinted at. It has been specifically talked about. It hasn't just been talked about, it has been specifically modeled. Whether you're looking at the music team and seeing people from different countries and ethnicities and a little bit of age diversity from the music selection to the people who are participating, and as Ray so beautifully said last night, he's not the only one who never imagined in a million years that they would be attending a conference where a transgender team would be featured, a transgender team would be recognized, a keynote speaker from the general platform would be transgender, and talking about what that means and why we are equipped to be the change in the world. And we're not, and in Peter this morning, right, talking about that same thing, we have to initiate and we have to go beyond whatever limits there have been before, like technology is my friend. And now
I'm getting the tape. Technology is my
and after 2 years of saying it,
We're up 10 P3s now.
and after 2 years of saying it, actually living it and trying new things.
Yeah.
So, and we're not done yet. We still got another day to go.
And as you say that, it just flashed, Martin Luther King Day was beginning of this week.
Yes.
And if I had to sum Dr. King up in one word, it is service.
Absolutely.
And so for us to now be boldly saying we can no longer pontificate, theorize, and all the other stuff about what needs to be done, and we're saying we have the greatest eyes, or one of the set of the greatest eyes to see it, we now have to do something about it, or enact it, or whatever it needs to be done to create that service.
Well, this is where I'm picking up, because Gandhi, it was a long time ago, when Gandhi said, be the change.
Yes.
Right? And it's taken a long time to stop talking about what do you mean by that, and step into it. Right?
But he also did his marches. I mean, Gandhi was a marcher.
Yeah.
So it's actually.
No, he embodied it, but I'm saying we're talking about for the collective consciousness to catch up.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And begin to see it. Now, and even when that's going to happen in society, it's going to happen the way it usually does. The way ice cracks. It starts, then it holds, and then it cracks some more. Right? And this is a big cracking of the cosmic egg, as they say. And it's not all going to happen because we gathered in Indian wells for a minute. But what we do see is a movement in the 2 years since the timeout. And this is what's happening in the world too. The timeout has changed us. And we haven't been back in the collective, participating in the collective, at least not without something. You need that right. See, right? You know what I'm saying? Right. We haven't been able to freely participate, and we're still not there yet. But we can begin to see what's gestating, what's really beginning to move into form, not just be sitting in the room, but to move into form.
And that brings to mind for me that prophetic song of the gambler. You gotta know when to hold on. You gotta know when to walk away, and you gotta know when to run. And then that poignant part, you never count your winnings while you're sitting at the table.
That's right.
There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done.
That's right.
We can make an assessment after we've done the service, if we've done it better or worse or whatever. But the thing is to do the service. And when we do that, the rest will take care of itself. We got an open heart and genuine spirit to make that service step forward.
And I think that, just thinking about the, well, I'll call it the overdeveloped world that we're part of, right? We've had to take a break, right? And we're seeing out of different eyes the way that maybe people who aren't living in the same way that we are seeing them with uncertainty.
Right.
Things are not there, right? We have to go to community. We have to rely on the things that we create, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have that same feeling of, I don't think we have the same feeling of alienation that we went into this with, where we're just these atomized beings kind of floating around, right? We've had to connect in a different way. And, I know I had a lot of dreams about technology as a young person. Doing community service and those kinds of things and working with community. And I was dreaming, I had the first we got these little tiny computers, right? And I could see we can actually send things immediately. It wasn't right then, but it came. And we can do this work so much faster. We're there, right? We're there. And we can communicate instantaneously with one another. And, even, being able to see people, right, from a distance without waiting for years, right, for a letter or for a visit. That's amazing. So we have this incredible power right now to move forward together in a new way and with the same consciousness. We know what it feels like now to live in uncertainty. And we can move forward.
And it kind of reminds me of that wisdom that says, well, where do you go once you get everything that you've been asking for? So it's like once all the technology, once you've developed everything you want to develop, once we can communicate anything with anyone all over the world with our power in our pockets and all of that, it's like, now what? Now what do you do with that? Where do you go with that? Do you turn back and make the living for everyone on the planet better? Or do you just use that to amplify your own privilege or position? And I think it's a question, so I think that's part of what we're living into. It's like, okay, if this consciousness is rising, where do we go with that? Do we go back and make a wider circle and a bigger table for everyone? Or do we just say, hey, we're enlightened, we got this, come join us, but start way over there and take all the classes.
Well, look, folks, we're going to answer that question in the next segment. You're watching New Thought Today, or you're watching Ministers Talking Shit on the New Thought Media Network. This is the live special edition from Indian Wells, California. We're going to let our panelists take a quick sip of water and show you a quick thank you video from our sponsors, so on and so forth. We'll be back in 2 more minutes, and we're going to answer that question.
I was just getting started.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Heckerland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Odgen, thank you for your very generous donation. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
And we're back with the extended, long-cut version of Ministers Talking Shit here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Reverend Robert Brazil. Krasinski, Rev Z, my co-host, and we got a collection of folks. We keep getting new folks here. This is Reverend Gil Olmsted dropped in during the break, decided to say hi. Gil, tell us to say hi and give us like the 1-minute version. What's the highlight of the conference for you?
Oh my gosh. I was listening and a part of it, and I was so impressed with Reverend Edwards. It landed, and I'll tell you, there was a level at which it surprised me, and it was really powerful, and it just, and it's also been said that it set a tone, and it seems like that tone has been carried through the whole thing, and it keeps coming back with newer and different and fresher ways and more specific ways perhaps of expressing it, but it keeps coming back that it's time for us to step up and open up and embrace the fullness of our lives.
Which is the beauty of frequency and resonance. Once the frequency has been put out, the resonance, everybody that's in the vicinity of that note is going to start vibrating. Everybody that's there saying, we need to do something more and different with what we have and what we've experienced. Let's get the band back together and go on the road.
Would you concur? Let's get back together.
Well, I was saying, like, what do we do with that consciousness once we get to a certain place? And I think it's an important question for us as a movement to lean into. It's an important question for the world to lean into. And, I think it's interesting, without judgment. I just think it's, from a curiosity place, I think it's interesting. We ought to give ourselves pause long enough to be curious about what's happening when for example, of the 4 richest white men in the world, 3 of them are spending a whole lot of money trying to get off the planet. And the other one is trying to build a whole new universe. Right? Yes. You got all this technology, you got all this money, you got all this resource. Are you, and I know, Elon, some of them have a lot of farms and doing other things, so I'm not trying to despair to say they're doing nothing, but it's just it's a curious place. What do you do when you get, quote unquote, elect? What do you do when you get the bring it back to our principles, right? When you get the prince and princess parking place and palace.
Yes.
Then
Well, and then there's something that goes with that, which is a crossroads we're definitely at, and you know that from your leadership position. I'm a sailor, as you know, and I have a power boat. The power boat, when it's sitting on the dock, is plugged in. Sometimes you might leave the dock and forget that you left it plugged in.
Sometimes.
Right? Sometimes. I can't wait to hear how the insurance. All of a sudden, right? You're about to move forward, and somebody goes, "Oh no!" Right? Because there's something that you have in your system that is holding you back, and that's the great disruptor, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's going to cause you to go back and go, we have to change protocols because that's holding us back. And as a skipper of a boat that I don't want to rip the electronics out of the boat, the new protocol is we unhook that line first.
Yes.
Right. New process. Right. It's just a whole new way. And you look at that old system of let's just you can't do it this way. We got to do it in this way. Right. And there's some things that have been disrupted by means of what has happened. And we got to move forward with it. Tracy got some thoughts.
So, because several people, keep referring to Edwards' talk, so the clarity with which he articulated how our principles require us, and our declaration of principles and the spiritual principles require us, compel us, it's an imperative. But here's what, I guess because I already believe all of that didn't so much impress me. It impressed me that he was saying it, but it didn't feel new to me. But here's what really struck me, and it's related to that. Like you're saying, you gotta unhook that old connection, or that connection that served its purpose, before you can sail into the new full speed ahead. So what struck me most was him talking about recognizing he himself has not been doing that. So, it's so easy for someone to give an inspiring talk and tell you all the right things, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that, I'm gonna be inclusive. And for him to to say, I've had a lot of trouble with that. I haven't done this. My therapist says this. Or, I'm conflict avoidant. For him to say all of those things was not just the power of authenticity. For me, it was more him saying, did you unplug from, you gotta unplug from how you were powered before in order to live the life that we say we believe we can create. So it wasn't, so I wasn't inspired, because for me, kind of honestly, I was like, yeah, but you're not living it, you're saying all the right things. So when we went into that place of, I will have to change in order to actually do this.
Yes.
That was the point for me where I was like, okay, now I can listen to the rest of this, and then afterwards saying, that's what every one of us has.
Right, the teacher said some very
Teachers did say that same message this morning, and Gabrielle made that same point last night in giving her example of letting go of who she had been and how other people were used to her expressing, and having to say, no, if I'm going to stand in my truth and I'm going to be authentic, then all this other stuff has to fall away. Otherwise, I'm just a spiritual bypass.
Right. And you know what? You go ahead, Jane. Well, I was going to, what's coming forward for me in that context is the opportunity this last 2 years has provided for us is for us, we're all healing the shit that we've been carrying around like it's a badge of honor.
Yes.
Right? Myself included, man. I've been sober for almost 29 years, but it's like some other addictions came up that I've had to address in my life, and what I'm aware of in the context of, I'm not a minister, but I see a lot of ministers and stuff like that, and there's a lack of healing and creating that safe place where ministers can go, where we can all go to heal that stuff, and like you said, it's like I realized that my addiction served me for a long time to survive, because I was going to check out if I didn't drink, if I didn't use, if I wasn't acting out sexually or whatnot, and then I get sober and I stop drinking, but it's like, okay, but that thing is still there. It's like, how can I heal it? How can we serve one another to heal this? It goes back to what I talked about this morning about the grief and stuff like that. It's like, it's not just one emotion. It's everything that we've experienced with a person that we've lost. So it's like creating those venues, and it's amazing to watch the Charlie's trans, right? It's like, wow, you get to be this at this age, and how many people in the room today that like been hanging on to Bruce Jenner, for God's sakes. It's like the athlete that he was and stuff like that, and it's like he's got to hide this. It's like, how many of the ministers, congregants, and everybody involved are not being authentic, and how do we create that safe place to not do the same spiritual bypass, but allow them the dignity of their process to heal that so they can rise up, so that vibration that's dying to come forward can be revealed and expressed.
And that just drops in real quick is, there's the new movie Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Right. And I always bring up a movie, but the thing that's prevalent right now is Don't Look Up has many places to go, but right now, in this moment, is saying we are so caught into our stuff that we're not looking up. We're sending people up in space, and the asteroid is coming, and we're like, oh, I'm in my own thing. I'm not going to worry. But you need to look up. Whether we're trying to figure ourselves out, whether we're gathering information to disseminate, whatever it is. Once we've done that, we have to look up and then disseminate and do something with it. And that's where that resonation and vibration happens. Other than that, I'm just, saying to myself. Victoria.
Well, what I was thinking is that what Tracy was getting at is there was this audience where Edward invited us to be trusted listeners. And how do we create that? I think for ministers especially, there's ideas about how we should be or whatever, right?
We're still at conference, I still got some jobs, I gotta check out.
Okay.
All right. Say that. Thank you.
I had experiences where ministers are not truthful in the congregation. And the congregation can handle whatever needs to be said.
And they know, that they can get the non-authenticity, so.
Right.
And
I say that again. I've tried
we also have our work to do, as you're saying, Jamie, that healing to do. And it's absolutely necessary that we invite everyone and to raise that place where we're in a trusted situation with one another. Yeah, look up. I mean, it's another way of saying that. But that trust, I think, is very important.
Yeah, well, and Dr. Edward and Petra both said to me just little phrases, and he said, my therapist. And Petra said, my executive coach. We can't do this alone.
Right.
We need to get practitioners to support. I just hired a coach because I was trying to do it all myself, and it was not working. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Petra said it today. I'm doing this and I'm answering my emails and I'm managing my calendar and I'm making the promo image for next Sunday and I'm doing this and I need to over this guy. I said, and that's got to stop.
Yeah.
We've got to identify these are the places that are unhealthy, harmful to our colleagues and each other and ourselves, and draw the line and say, we got to get help. Whether it's an assistant or a therapist or a coach or just somebody to smack you up outside the head on Sunday.
And there's a song in there somewhere about I release and let go.
That was rocking too. We do have some fun in games. That's what you heard. Yes.
And I was going to say something else around what you were saying, Victoria, was that it felt like in all of the speakers that there was a lot less teaching going on and a lot more inviting people into the process. And often when I've been at these kinds of things, the people come up, they pontificate, and they disappear. And it's like, no, that's not that helpful. And so, but by being authentic, by showing up and not saying, this is what you need to do about this because this is the problem, they're saying, I've been looking at this, and this is something, we gotta think this through. That's got issues.
And I think that's important for the new generations coming in, working with the teens. It's like teens smell bullshit, man. You can't get up there and try to be hippie or stuff like that. You get up there and try to be hip and cool and it's like they switch you off. But when you're authentic, which is what I experienced working with the teens from 1998 through 2010, it's like they got a big bullshit meter. And it's like I gotta have that bullshit meter in myself, and I think that if we're to move forward, that authenticity, I wanted to be a minister for a long time, and I there were a lot of reasons. I realized I'm living my ministry through my music, but there was another part. But there was it was that part of. It made me think earlier of how social media is affecting centers, because the vitriol and the hatred and the dissension that goes on, and it's like, how can we create something where it is in fact dialogue and it's not this hateful, againstness, and it's like it brings it up for me sometimes, and I just think for this, and I keep speaking to the generations coming up, and how do we support our young adults to continue doing this work? Because a lot of them go, it's like, okay, I'm done with teen camp, I'm done with church, I'm done. It's like, how do we find ways once again to create a safe place to land for them, and I get that it's all about, it's authentic. The authenticity of the ministers, the authenticity of the practitioners, the authenticity of the community. And, you know, it's no small feat because everybody comes to church and it's like they're loving in church, and then y'all know they get out in the parking lot and you love it. You get out of that way, you know.
Please come on to my board. Let me pull back the curtain and show you everything.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in looking at where do we go from here, it's the whole, you know, how do we get to Carnegie Hall? We got to practice. We're not going to do it right the first time. We may not even do it right the second time. But we got to do it if we ever want to move off the dime. And so that's what I'm encouraged to do, and not try to find a safe spot and please myself more than anybody else, and then think something's being done. Because at the end of the day, nothing's going to be done. And if I do it in that manner, I'm not even going to be changed. I'm just going to be bullshitting myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
to me, that's the principle of failing to success.
Yes.
As a parent of 2 transgender teens, you don't just learn how to change a lifetime of pronouns in a day.
Right.
You fail again and again and again and again and again and again until you stop failing, until you get it, until it's just become, I don't have to correct myself anymore. I don't have to stop saying, I'm sorry, let me use the right word here. It just becomes us. And
You know what I really love about that, though, is that you have to be so present.
intentional.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to go down the road, you'll never get the lesson.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know half what I know about what it's like what the trans world is like, because I had no necessity to go learn that.
Mm-hmm.
I was busy with my ministry, I had no imperative at all to go do that. And when it was thrust into my life, now I've got to learn. What I think we're calling all of ourselves to in this conference is to no longer say, I'll just wait till it hits my life.
Mm.
We have the moral imperative to learn how to translate pronouns. We have the moral imperative to do these things, not because they're being pushed at us or it's the right thing to do or it's my family. We're being called to that because it's what is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way to be here now.
Yeah. Wow.
When you get called out.
And we can expose ourselves to different voices without having them in our immediate circle, so we can expand the circle. You know, blogs and websites and books and
I watch
podcasts that just really expanding. So
well, I turn off the sound.
And that speaks to relationships, right? So if someone needs some information and people are being authentic and trusted, when they build relationships that are putting together the whole circle, I can call Rob and say, I need some help with this, or I want to refer you to this person. So when you speak to them, it's not theoretical. It's not pontificating. It's somebody with experience, that's heartfelt, that's in the trenches. And whether you know them or not, you're going to feel that. Like the key teens, you're going to feel that when they express, and you're going to say, okay, I can trust this. I'm going to take a step right now.
Yes. Folks, you're watching New Thought today. This is the extended cut of Ministers Talking Shit. We know we're running out of time, so we're going to go around the room and do some final thoughts and then say thank you to our sponsors again before we get done today. We really do appreciate you being here. I hope you've enjoyed being with us. Let's start with Reverend Jay. I stepped on your last comment with my joke, so
I don't really have anything profound to say. I just think it's great to have a conversation with this, and we need more dialogue with people to expand our world, expand our mindfulness.
Victoria.
Oh, well, I love dialogues, right? I love to sit in a room. And I guess I would, I don't usually cuss, so I will right now. So this is great. So I'm so happy that we have this New Thought Network to work with now, and I know that this year is going to be a fabulous year. We're going to take off.
Back to the rocket in the pocket joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see so much happening, and I enjoyed listening to all of you and hearing this, and I look forward to working and playing with everybody moving forward, because I think we've got so much to do, and it's so much about being willing to try it. I think Peter said it really well. We're just trying stuff. Throw it out there and try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. But if we don't try it, we're not moving. You know, the boat's still stuck in the water and it's not doing it. So, and I'm grateful for Ms. Media as well, and being part of the family.
Join Reverend Gil and his beautiful wife Robin on Wednesday afternoons at noon Pacific, 1 o'clock Mountain Time for Rockin' with Love. It's a great show, folks.
Great. So people who know me know that I have that line that's a subtitle of my book, Becoming a Spiritual Community Where Oneness Does Not Require Sameness. And in the last 2 days of this conference, that just keeps coming up. Oh, maybe now we're really ready to be the example of oneness without requiring sameness and taking action that stretches us so that we can teach these principles and serve the world in a bigger way. So I'm really glad that I am here and that I am right here in this conversation, because it's all starting to come together in a different way.
Yes.
So.
For me, I think it's we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of this new conglomeration called CSL, this experience called CSL, that was anchored in this vision of a world that works for everyone. And I remember voting for it. And I remember walking away from that voting box and thinking, after and later that night when the results were announced, 98%, whatever it was, I'm thinking, we have no idea what we just did. That's not what I told people. Nobody knows that we thought it sounded good. We thought it sounded pretty. Great sounding. Yeah, because we are word people, right? We love poetic phrases, and we went, oh, world of yes, oh yes, that's So 50 years later, we still don't know what stand for something against nothing. Yeah, it's a beautiful poetic line, and we all, 50 years walking around. And so I think it's about really just being inspired by that call of that vision, but then having the courage, and I think this is the part that we're setting into, is having the courage. Are you willing to look at the places where the world isn't working for everyone? And then, are you even further courage and courageous enough and willing to simply, and I think people have made it bigger than it needs to be, simply be willing to apply the kernel of truth that you know, that you demonstrated in your life, that you practiced, that brought you into the center, that made you take classes, that you acknowledged saved your life, or however you phrase it. Are you just willing to apply that to what you're seeing? Amen. And I feel like we're stepping into that. Amen. Thank God. Thank God.
Dr. Jamie?
I love what you just said, Tracy, about recognizing that oneness is not sameness. It reminded me of I can't remember who the talk or whatever I heard. It's like a minister talking about you want to bring new people in to your community and stuff like that, but then you want them to just be like you.
Yes.
Instead of the diversity, allowing people to come in and be who they are, pray from where they can, live from where they can, and grow and expand and unfold, because we all have something to learn from one another. And I just hold for this community to continue to grow and to accept the oneness without the sameness. And I look forward to greater diversity. I come from agape, and I thought that was the world and then I go out in the world and it's like, wow, and just recognizing my straight white privilege and stuff. I was so offended when someone said that to me originally, and then it's like I realized, oh wow, I got this, and it's like, what am I going to do about it? So there's such great opportunity for me and for our community to open up to that oneness and to really understand it, embrace it, the world that works for everybody, It's kind of like let there be peace on earth, you know? It's that kind of thing, but you know what? I know that it's happening. I know it's happening right now. Amen.
See, well, I'm gonna stick with my music thing, because that's what the vibration is saying. It's that time where the band was together, whether we were in God's presence or not, and we were playing, and then we broke the band up, we came here and we did our thing, and now it's time to get the band back together, and then take it on the road. Let's get the caravan going. Those who want to join into the song, join into the caravan. Now is the time. And as you were just saying, in the band, you know, the whole thing about the one person playing the cymbal, and they just wait, they're standing there for 2 hours waiting to do one thing. Bang, get the cymbal. And if that's what you got, that was the crescendo of the whole presentation. So that's how there shouldn't be much, sorry about that, go away.
We are officially over time.
Yeah, and so that's what that was reminding me. But we got the band back together, we're taking on the road, full of spirit, full of love, and the vibration is just moving through the crowd.
That's new music too.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's new too. Folks, you're watching the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Robert. On behalf of everyone here, we want to thank you for being with us today, spending some of your time. If you like what you hear here, please share it with your friends. And if you don't, hey, share it with somebody you don't like. Enjoy what we're doing. If you're so inclined and you have the means, we would appreciate your donations. This is a nonprofit, and we are run completely on the donations, gifts, tithes, and offerings of viewers and watchers like you, as well as our community partners in many of the different centers across the movement. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna let our producer run a thank you video or two. And until next time, thanks for being with us. Peace. Peace.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Odgen, thank you for your very generous donation. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.